I'm always the same. I never change. I'm ready for a 5-round war, and the reason being is, if I go out, say, oh, he's gonna submit him or he's gonna dominate him, but then the fight happens and no submission, no domination, then my train of thought goes away, and I forgot to be engaged in the fight because I thought about, oh, okay, we're not gonna submit him. So if I look at, oh, he should have finished him in the second round and he didn't, then I kept thinking, oh, we didn't finish him in the second round. But then my thought pattern changes, so I don't want to do that. So I like to stay engaged the whole time.
Islam, if he is able to do this, would further cement himself as one of the greatest fighters of all time. He really would. He would cement himself as one of the greatest of all time. I think he's already one of the greatest of all time. But by going up to 170,
How do you feel about this version of JDM as a challenge for Islam? Do you feel like he's a harder challenge than an Ilia Topuria at lightweight?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say if he's a harder challenge. I just know Islam wants this one. So for me...
Before we jump in, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you're always updated with the latest from the fight game. Let's get started. Islam Makhachev's head coach, Javier Mendes, recently revealed some surprising insights about Islam's mindset going into his showdown with Jack Della Maddalena. Meanwhile, Dan Hardy has weighed in on the matchup, acknowledging Jack's impressive rise, but casting doubt on his long-term chances of dominating the welterweight scene. He gave credit to Jack for how he handled Belal Muhammad, but also questioned whether Makhachev's lightweight dominance will carry over to the 170-pound division. Hardy's concern revolves around how Islam will adapt to the physical demands of welterweight, the size, the pressure, and the endurance over 5 hard rounds. According to Hardy, that could be a game-changer.
I think Della Maddalena's got a bright future. I don't know whether he's going to hold the belt or, he's going to lose it to another one of the top contenders and then pick it back up again. I don't think he's going to lose it to Makhachev, though. I think Makhachev holds the lightweight belt against anybody in the world, on any day, including Ilia Topuria. I don't think if he moved up, he would have much success against Makhachev. But Della Maddalena looked very, very sharp against Belal. And I wonder what Makhachev would look like as a welterweight, whether he would look as strong and as lean or whether he would look heavier and, potentially gas himself out because he'd be stepping straight into a 5-round fight, wouldn't he?
Michael Bisping spoke highly of Jack Della Maddalena after his win against Belal, calling it a career-defining moment. He praised Jack for not only his skill set inside the octagon, but for how he carries himself outside of it, respectful, grounded, and fearless when facing tough opposition. Bisping sees Jack's victory as setting up a serious challenge next, one that could be against Islam Makhachev in the near future.
Tonight belongs to Jack Della Maddalena. He's an awesome human being. I've sat down with him several times and had some conversations. Nice guy, quiet guy, a man of few words. But I tell you what, that was an incredible fight tonight. And he'll take on Islam Makhachev. He doesn't care. He wants to be a part of the biggest fights possible. Islam Makhachev versus Jack Della Maddalena. That's the fight that's going to happen.
Javier Mendes emphasized that his approach doesn't change regardless of the opponent. He prepares for a full 5-round battle every time. In his view, getting caught up in predictions about early finishes or submissions can lead to mental slips during the actual fight. Staying alert from start to finish is non-negotiable.
I'm always the same. I never change. I'm ready for a 5-round war, and the reason being is, if I go out, say, oh, he's gonna submit him or he's gonna dominate him, but then the fight happens and no submission, no domination, then my train of thought goes away, and I forgot to be engaged in the fight because I thought about, oh, okay, we're not gonna submit him. But that little thought, to me, is something that I can't afford.
He likened it to freeway driving. Even a second of inattention can lead to disaster. In the cage, losing focus because of unmet expectations can be just as costly. That's why Mendez watches every second like it's the moment that decides everything.
For instance, if you think about if you're driving in the freeway and you lose track and you look behind and all of a sudden you look ahead, you've just wrecked because you weren't paying attention. So I kind of look at it like that. I need to be engaged at all times and look at the fights of what's going on in front of me. So if I look at, oh, he should have finished them in the second round and he didn't, then I kept thinking, oh, we didn't finish in the second round. But then my a thought pattern changes, So I don't want to do that. So I like to stay engaged the whole time through.
Daniel Cormier spoke on what this welterweight title pursuit means for Islam. If he secures that second belt, Cormier believes it would cement Islam's place among the sport's all-time greats. He already sees Islam as elite, but conquering a second division would take that legacy to another level.
Islam, if he is able to do this, would further cement himself as one of the greatest fighters of all time. He really would. He would cement himself as one of the greatest of all time. I think he's already one of the greatest of all time. But by going up to 170, one of the things that he would not do was fight Belal Muhammad. And they were very clear about him and Belal Muhammad about not wanting to fight each other.
Cormier also highlighted how Makhachev's mere interest in the welterweight division is already shaking things up. He referenced the drama sparked by Joaquin Buckley, someone from within the division, who criticized Islam's associations. That tension shows just how much his presence is being felt, even before stepping foot into a 170-pound bout.
But then Joaquin Buckley writes, crazy that you were praying for your so-called brother's downfall. That was Joaquin Buckley. So not only does Islam have an opportunity to become a world champion, he's already got guys up at 170 taking notice.
In an earlier interview, Javier Mendes addressed whether Jack Della Maddalena presents a tougher challenge than Ilia Topuria. Mendez didn't make a definitive comparison, but was clear that Islam welcomes the challenge Jack offers. For Islam, it's about proving himself, not picking easier fights. Mendez firmly believes that Islam's discipline and skills are enough to deal with whoever stands across from him.
How do you feel about this version of JDM as a challenge for Islam? Do you feel like he's a harder challenge than an Ilia Topuria at lightweight?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say if he's a harder challenge. I just know Islam wants this one. So for me, that's the challenge I want, and it's the challenge that I know Islam's going to be, supreme over, because I just know his skill set. I know what he brings to the table, and he brings an incredible work ethic along with skill set.
He also noted that Jack hasn't fought anyone quite like Islam yet. If the fight gets booked, Mendez expects it to be a high-level war, and he's confident Islam's combination of strength and technique will shine, even at welterweight.
Islam is a whole different animal than Jack's ever been involved with. So if that fight does materialize, we're going to see a hell of a fight, and you're going to see Islam perform at an absolute incredible level. And also, the weight is not super big for him either. So he's going to be a fairly decent welterweight. So Islam won't be a small guy. He'll be a decent welterweight if that fight materializes.
In fact, Mendez suggested that competing at 170 might benefit Islam. With less of a weight cut, Islam could feel more energized. He pointed out that in Australia, where this bout may happen, fighters only get 24 hours to recover post-weigh-in, much less than the 36 hours usually granted elsewhere. This shorter turnaround may impact Jack more than Islam, who has previously handled such conditions against fighters like Volkanovski.
I'm hoping, I haven't seen this, so I haven't seen him at welterweight, but I'm thinking, logically speaking, he has to cut less weight, and, recovery time is a lot less too. So, but if it is in Australia, we'll need it, because in Australia, they only give you 24 hours to recover. Then it's not a 36 hours like everywhere else. So we'll only have 24-hour recovery. So if that's the case, it's fantastic. And I don't know if that's going to be an advantage because of that reason. But if it's anywhere else where it's the 36-hour plus, then it's a nice advantage for Islam to recover quicker. Not that it's a disadvantage or not an advantage for Jack. It's the same for Jack, but for us, it could make a difference, 24 hours versus 36 hours for recovery. Because I know it was for Volk. It was a big difference.
Luke Thomas also chimed in, applauding Jack's slick striking and how he outperformed Belal Muhammad in crucial exchanges. But he didn't ignore the flaws. Gaps in Jack's defense and grappling could be openings Islam will absolutely exploit.
You knew the striking prowess of JDM if he could just have enough time to get it going. would be enough. I think Muhammad somewhat overperformed relative to expectations, but in the end, JDM was better. But the defensive lapses, to me, I know we have to focus on like how good JDM is as a striker, but what could have cost him here was the incompleteness of his defense. And to me, he took a quantum leap forward today in showing how good that was. Now, again, trying to turn that defense into offense by trying to go for some of those ill-advised takedowns, especially in the fifth, and then you're getting kind of lateral dropped for it. You do that against Islam, and I think that's a huge mistake. Islam just doesn't make a lot of mistakes, right? He doesn't necessarily have, at times, always the flashiest offense. I mean, he does have very good offense. We're talking about the pound-for-pound #1 guy in the sport. But what really defines him is that he makes very, very good decisions.
Thomas also expressed excitement about Islam's move to 170. While acknowledging that there's no guarantee of success, he believes it's a career-defining opportunity. If Islam wins the title, he joins the ranks of 2 division champions and solidifies his place in UFC history.
I have to tell you, Islam up at 170 to me is exciting. I know what everyone's going to say. Oh my God, the best fight you could have made in MMA was Ilya versus Islam. I'm not denying it. I'm not in any way asking you to feel differently about what was the best fight that could be made. But here's what I am trying to tell you. Islam up at 170 could be something really special. It could fizzle too, but I'm trying to point out the positives. It could be really special. For him to become a double champ could be a very big deal.
Stephen Wonderboy Thompson added his thoughts on the size difference. While Islam might be a strong lightweight, many welterweights walk around at over 200 pounds. He pointed out that even if Jack doesn't tower over Islam, the overall strength and size across the division will test him. Thompson also mentioned Jack's past experience against strong wrestlers like Bilal, and though he believes the fight won't be easy for Islam, he's eager to see how it plays out.
I don't know, man. I mean, when you're going up to the welterweight division, those are some big boys. And I know Islam Makhachev walks around fairly heavy, but a lot of these 170s, they walk around real heavy. I'm talking about, over 205, 210 to the 215. Some of the guys that I've faced would walk around at that weight. I think like the height, I think they might be the same height. I think JD might be a little taller, but when it comes to those guys and their strength, Islam, I think, is going to have a tough time. Now, do I think he could get it done? Yes. I think he's that good of a grappler. But like I said, JDM has faced some of the best welterweight grapplers and wrestlers in the division. Bilal being one of them. I think it's going to be a tough night for him. I would like to see Islam fight Topuria. That's just me. I would love to see that fight happen. But if he comes up, we'll see what the UFC gets behind. And we all know you got to convince the UFC to make it happen. And you do that first by getting on Twitter, shouting it out, and get people talking about it. And that's what Islam did. So we'll see if that fight happens with JDM.
Henry Cejudo backed Islam to win and take the welterweight belt, calling it the natural next step in his championship journey. On the flip side, Kamaru Usman threw his support behind Jack, praising his calm presence and backing him to retain his belt. Both believe the fight is likely to happen in Abu Dhabi this October, and that means Islam versus Topuria is on pause for now.
I think Islam Makhachev is going to beat him. I think he's going to become the 11th double champ in UFC history.
Islam tweeted, "Keep it shiny, keep it nice for me." JDM, I mean, it was kind of like the perfect comeback. He was just like, yeah, come get it.
Keep my belt clean. Okay, so the talking has begun, dude. That fight is set. That fight's going to take place in October, Abu Dhabi. I think we all know that. We're no longer going to get Ilya versus Islam Makhachev just now.
Ian Machado Garry also gave props to Makhachev, saying every fighter at 170 should take him seriously. Without the intense weight cut, Islam might show an even more dangerous version of himself. Garry described him as the prototype of the modern MMA athlete, smart, composed, and lethal.
And if that man turns up and says, I want to be next, then I think everyone in the welterweight division goes, okay. He's an absolute disaster for everyone in the division if he comes up and doesn't have to cut weight. He'll still be big, he'll still be strong. He's the perfect example of the new evolution of fighters. Great everywhere.
Robert Whittaker shared his perspective too. He thinks the jump to 170 might suit Islam better than expected, especially given how tough it's been for him to cut to 155. Like Topuria moving up, the key is whether Islam's strengths translate. Whittaker said the unknowns make it fascinating, but if anyone can pull it off, it's Islam.
Maybe it's. I guess that's the $1 million question. That's the question everybody's asking, and that's kind of the question. It's the same. It's the same situation as Topuria as well. How good is Topuria? But what's he going to look like up weight division? Same with Islam. By all reports, though, the weight cut was really hard for him. Like really, really hard. He's super strong for that weight division, which, you know, must translate well to moving up, making it a little bit easy cut. Maybe he gets a little bigger. It's yeah. I'm very That's the $1 million question. Everybody's asking the same thing.
He also pointed out that Islam already does what Belal Muhammad does, just better. But at the same time, he didn't downplay Jack's performance. While the win over Belal wasn't flawless, Jack showed grit and hunger. Whitaker said Jack has something special, that X factor that keeps him dangerous. He believes Jack has the mindset to rise again, just like he did in his battles with Burns and Belal.
Definitely, but like I said, it is hard to try to get like an accurate gauge on what it's going to look like, not knowing how Islam is going to look when he moves up. Okay, it's always the question everybody asks when anybody is moving up a weight division or down a weight division. Okay, there's so many unknowns involved. But saying that, I think that Islam can do everything that Belal does, but way better. Okay, way better. So
Ali Abdelaziz confirmed the plan. Islam will fight for the welterweight belt this year. It won't be for an interim title either. Jack is the reigning champ. But if anything delays his participation, someone else will step in, and the title will still be up for grabs. Abdelaziz said Dana White and Hunter Campbell have already approved the scenario. He added that if Jack ends up injured or unavailable, the UFC would vacate the title and move forward. While he hopes Jack stays ready, Abdelaziz emphasized that the promotion is fully prepared either way.
When will it happen, Islam and Jack?
Islam fighting for the title this year. The non-interim title, a title. Jack Maddalena is the champion, but if Jack is not available, there will be someone else fighting Islam for the title. That's what the UFC told me. That's what Dana told me. That's what the hunters, everybody said. You know, and that was one of the stipulations. If Islam go up, Jack get injured, and I hope he's healthy, and he seemed like he's healthy, this title will be vacated and Islam will fight for welterweight.
Gilbert Burns gave his support too, saying 170 is where Islam belongs. Given how tough his cut to 155 has been, Burns thinks Islam's power and technique will make him a real threat in the new division. He also noted Jack's time training with names like Craig Jones and Volkanovski has helped sharpen his grappling and composure. Burns admitted he hasn't fully broken down the matchup yet, but he's sure it'll be razor close. Let us know where you stand. Is this the moment Islam Makhachev makes history again? Or will Jack Della Maddalena prove he's the true king of welterweight? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button, and make sure you're subscribed for everything coming next in this heated rivalry.